So originally, I wanted to call this show, Won't You Be My Accountability Buddy? But I felt that was a little too inside baseball. And then I also considered What You Got on Your Plate, Bro? Which is a reference to an inside joke that I share with my wife about a story that none of you have ever heard, so it wouldn't make any sense to you to do that. And then the last title I considered was, Hey, how's your shit going? But that... So welcome everyone to the first episode of what will hopefully be a new weekly series here on Angry Writer, in which I ask the seemingly simple yet ultimately complex question, what are you working on? And I will answer that question for myself, and I also want to know, what are you working on? It's interactive. I want to hear about what you got going on. I want you to hit the comments and tell me what you're working on this week. What's on your plate? What are your plans for that piece of work going forward? You know, what you're doing with your creative pursuits. Also, doesn't have to be about writing. I know not everyone who watches this is a writer, so just whatever you're working on this week, I want to hear about it. I want to hear your plans for it, and if I can help you in any way with it, we can do that too. If you need advice, you need a little motivation, whatever you need, just hit the comments. I will read all of them, and I will respond to all of them as needed. And yeah, I just want to hear. What are you working on? So last week was a very big week for me. I finished my very first middle grade novel that I've ever written. I got it turned into my agent, going to get his notes, get it all ready, and then it goes off to market to sell, hopefully to someone at a very high, juicy price, and then we can buy a hot tub, my wife and I. That's the plan, anyway. I feel good about it, I really do. It was a difficult project for me. It was very personal. It was in an entirely new medium that I've never written in before. I've never written any fiction really aimed at like an 8 to 12 age group. So that was a big deal for me. It was actually my agent, Dongwon Song's idea for me to do a middle grade book. He had tried to get me a job writing a middle grade book based on someone else's story. And I did a bunch of sample chapters for that, and I didn't get the job. And he liked the work that I did so much, and he was so angry that they didn't hire me, that he was like, pitch me a middle grade idea, and we'll write that book, and we'll go sell it for a bunch of money, and really stuff it down their throats. He didn't say the stuff it down their throats part. But yeah, so we had that conversation a year and a half ago at a meeting we had in downtown LA. And I was supposed to get the book done by the 1st of 2018. Obviously, that didn't happen. Last year was the busiest year of my professional life. If you remember, I spent most of the year working full-time for an ICO marketing firm as senior content developer, and doing that while I was doing everything else. And then even though that imploded towards the end of the year, which is a whole other story. But so I picked the busiest professional year of my life to try to write the most personal story I've ever written, in a style and a medium I've never written. And it's also the first contemporary piece of fiction I've written with no fantastical or futuristic elements. So I was playing this one on hard mode. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that fact. But the book is in large part about my childhood and also about my days going through professional wrestling school. That's really the centerpiece of it. And even though I didn't intend this when I started writing it, it ultimately became about dealing with the death of my wife's father, which happened very unexpectedly a few years ago. All of those things kind of coalesced into this book that's meant for 8 to 12-year-olds. No, but that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to write something meaningful and personal and really try to connect with kids through that way and impart to them something worthwhile while telling them a really entertaining story. And I hope I've done that. Like I said, my agent is reading it now, so we'll see. So a few weeks ago, and I am bringing this up now because I haven't talked about it on the channel yet, which is another reason I'm doing this series, is so I can keep you more up to date on what's going on with my writing and talk more about writing. I finished the line edits for Savage Legion, which is the first book in my new epic fantasy trilogy from Saga Press. Savage Legion comes out next spring, and I've been working for 4 months with Nava Wolf, my new editor, on her edits for this very large tome of a book. It was the most intensive editing process I've ever been through because Nava is a tough customer, man. She brooks no plot holes or clunky prose or this is clunky. Can you recast? Anyway. But no, she brooks none of that. And she really pushed me to round out the world building, fill all the holes in the world building, really examine the characters, each character's motivation and their dynamic with each other, and just pushed every aspect of the book really, really hard to make me really fine-tune and clarify and just make it better, which it did. It's a million times better than when I started. But it was a long, involved process for me, and we finally reached the end of it. We locked the draft of the book. It's going to copy edits. It's going to come out spring of 2020 is the plan right now. 2 more books will follow after that, which brings me to what I'm working on right now. So the big ticket item on my plate is the second book in the what we're calling the Savage Rebellion series. Savage Legion, I said, was the first one. We just locked edits on that. And now I'm writing Savage Bounty is the title of the second book, and that is due April 1st. So that's a big one. That is a large looming deadline for a very large book. I'm still working on the first part of it. I'm trying to finish that this week. I structure these books in 3 parts, kind of like writing 3 novellas, and I approach it that way. 3 novellas from 3 different perspectives of 3 main characters, and it all gels into one thing, and that's how I break it down, and that helps me kind of deal with the immensity and enormity of an epic fantasy book because I'm not a long-form writer naturally. So thinking of it as 3 novellas really helps me kind of deal with that length and make it the way I want it and structure it. The structure is everything on whatever you're writing. So I'm doing that. So I'm still in the first part, and we're in February, so I need to get that done this week so I can stay on any kind of pace to hit that April 1st deadline. I have every intention of doing that. I will stick to it, and I will get it done. That is a thing. Accountability is another big reason I'm doing this series. For you and for me. Accountability helps me. I don't know if it helps you. Everyone's different. Not judging your process, but I need it. I'm terrible with self-imposed deadlines. Like I said, the middle grade book was due like a year ago. And that was a self-imposed deadline. But when I have a hard deadline from outside forces like a publisher, I function much better. When I have accountability, I function much better. So for those of you, the accountability helps. It's another reason I'm asking, what are you working on? And I want you to tell me about it so we can kind of hold each other accountable in this series, in the comments of these shows, and kind of keep each other on track. And I hope you'll join me in doing that. So yeah, that's what I'm working on right now. Another thing in the nonfiction world, because you got to make that money, whatever Jason fucking Heller says. So as I mentioned earlier, the marketing job I had last year that imploded, I'm still friends with a lot of folks that I worked with at that company. And several of them have hit me up over the last few weeks with opportunities, and the project manager from that marketing company actually hit me up and offered me some freelance blog writing work for a big client of hers in the health and wellness industry. So she sent me a list of topics yesterday, told me to pick one, which I did, and I've got to pound that out this week and get them my first blog for that project because you got to make that money. So that's the other thing I'm working on. And I think those are all the main things right now. So yeah, that's what I've got going on. I'll hit you up next week, let you know how it's going, how it's progressing, anything else that comes up. Hit the comments, let me know, what are you working on? And if you have any questions or you need any help with that, let me know that too, and we'll get to the finish line together. That's what this is all about. And I'll see you all next week. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when new episodes of What Are You Working On go up. In addition to all the rest of the content I do on Angry Writer. And please do tell a friend, share it on your social media channels and whatnot. Yeah. All right, Team Hamshackle, out.